crime, in fact, much less of a crime than lifting the seam, which is specifically mentioned in the laws.
Yeah. Okay, I don't think we could pursue that any further except to say that I would like you to admit that as captain of the team, if you are scratching it is, and the leader of the bowling fraternity on your team, it is absolutely inevitable that others will.
No, but this is debatable. No, but this is, again,
you brought those two along, didn't you? They came in your shadow.
But let me explain another thing to you, that, in our country, a club bowler knows how to reverse swing the ball. You don't have to reach the test standard, you don't have to get there. And it's...
Do they know how to scratch it?
Let me, but before we get on to the scratching, let me explain. You see, in our country, what happened, that organizations came into our cricket, okay, and they did not have their own cricket grounds. So about 4 or 5 grounds had a lot of matches played. This is when reverse swing was developed in our country. Because in the 70s, we had these organizations, few grounds had all the matches. As a result, they got completely worn out. The squares were worn out. I mean, if you had to survive as a seam bowler in those conditions, you had to be able to reverse swing it.
The final question is this, and everybody's asking this, and I feel very embarrassed to ask it, but I must put it to you. If you hadn't lifted a seam or scratched a ball, do you think you would have gotten as many wickets?
Yes. Because, you see, the other misconception is that, by anyone who scratches a ball can get wickets. Yeah. I mean, I used to bowl for Sussex. The whole Sussex team knew I could reverse swing. When the ball used to be old enough, I mean, my captain would just call me and say, listen, what do you think, this will swing? And I would swing it. Now, I would swing from one side, and there was Garth Leroux, Sussex, at the time, South African fast bowler, Jeff Arnold, there was Ian Gregg. I mean, they were English bowlers or international bowlers bowling from the other end. Why could they not swing it? I mean, if it was as simple as that you scratch a ball and you swing it a yard, surely the other bowlers should have been swinging it too.
Thank you, Imran. I'll be coming back to you in the second half of the program. After the break, I'll be talking to some other interested parties. Welcome back. I am the devil's advocate, and tonight I'm moving it both ways to Imran Khan, former cricket captain of Pakistan. In part 1, Imran has answered some of my questions. Now I'm going to hear from some other interested parties. I'd like to go first to Don Ostler. You have umpired in a lot of matches that Imran has played in for Sussex, around the county ground and so on. Is Imran telling us the whole truth, do you think?
As far as I'm aware, he's telling us the truth. He has come out with, some revelations, and he's admitted certain things. I came into it with regard Imran when I realised that a little later in the date which he mentions in the book, I had sent to the Testing County Cricket Board a document pointing out certain matters in a match which I umpired, in which Imran played.
When was that, and the match between what, Sussex and Warwickshire?
That was correct, yes.
About when was that?
In August 1983.
What did your report say?
Would it help if I just read this brief letter which I sent to the Testing County Cricket Board?
What? Just a line or two about the ball.
On the matter. The Warwickshire second innings finished quite suddenly with Imran Khan taking the last 6 wickets in a very short space of time with some very accurate bowling. As my colleague and I left the field, I noticed that a piece of the ball was sticking up, and upon a closer inspection, it could be seen that this piece was the triangle of leather which joins the cross seam and quarter seam. The stitching did not appear to be frayed, but more as if it had been cut, and the piece, which was proud of the ball, was large enough to be able to hold the ball by it.
Imran, what say you?
Don, if you don't have proof of that, I mean, if I was doing it, if you don't have proof, that is a serious doubt on my credibility. When I say that I picked the ball once is different, but when someone else comes around and says, no, he did it again, my credibility is affected by that. And, The whole
Imran
article...
didn't say you did that again. He said you removed the seam so completely that you could hold the ball by the piece of
I'm
leather.
sorry, Mr. Howe, I
was no
said
occasional
nothing of the
scratching, was
sort.
it?
I said nothing of the sort and wrote nothing of the sort. I brought out a certain matter which we had seen with the ball. I said that he had taken the last 6 wickets, he bowled 4.3 overs, he took 6 for 6, and he bowled 5 of them, and the other one was LBW, if you want to know the facts, but I did not accuse him.
But why are you
of
bringing
anything.
it up if you're not wanting to say Imran did it? I mean, you bring it, you can't get away from it.
Darcus, there's
You know, hold on. Courtney
point-
Ambrose got a lot of wickets against England, bowled out the whole team. But I don't know, did they walk off with a piece of leather holding it? I mean,
Darcus, there's one point I also
this
want
is
to...
serious, Imran.
Yep, I
Did
want-
you or didn't you? Answer me.
I tell you something, there's one point I
On
want
that
to make
occasion.
here. What happened was, I was recovering from a stress fracture of my shin bone. So I could only bowl 5-6 overs in the match. Now, bearing in mind that the whole Sussex team, including my captain, John Barkley, knew I could reverse swing the ball. He handed me the ball, which was about 80 overs old. It was a very old ball he handed me, and he only handed it to me, looking at the condition, knowing it was rough and it would reverse swing. And the biggest point you must remember is, you're coming back to your answer that, you know, if I hadn't done anything to the ball, would I have got wickets? That same ball was used by Garth Leroux and other bowlers who were bowling from the other end. Why weren't, I mean, how come I cleaned up the tail 6 wickets? How come they didn't? They should surely have got 1 wicket at least. You know, it was an old ball. He handed me that when it was
Okay,
an
let's
old
talk
ball.
about old balls. The one that was changed at Lord's, where Derek Murray was, you were the third umpire, were you?
Yes, Mr. Howe,
And Derek Murray was the independent
that's correct.
referee. What was the state of the ball, as you remember it? Or do you remember it at all?
Since I carried it in my pocket for half an hour before giving it to Mr. A.C. Smith, I should have remembered it.
You don't have it there. I thought you were taking it out. Now, tell us, what was the state of it?
It had certain scratch marks on it, cuts. Well, I would rather say they were cut marks rather than scratch marks.
So that some instrument you were suggesting was used?
No, I'm not.
Well, you can't cut leather with fingernails.
Oh, but you can.
You can? I'll try. I'm playing for Channel 4 next week.
You have a ball there. You have a ball there.
So you were saying that that ball was badly tampered with by the Pakistanis.
No, I'm not saying that at all.
Why is everybody scared to talk?
I'm not
What do you
scared to
think
talk, that's why I'm
the
here.
whole cricketing establishment would collapse? If you're accusing Imran of ball tampering, say so.
I am not accusing Imran of ball tampering and never would.
Derek Murray. I want to go to Derek Murray. Dick, tell me, you were the independent referee, and I am puzzled by this failure to clarify. It's all obfuscated. It's all gloomy. What is the state of the ball of that match? Was justice done in that match?
Yes, I agree with Don. There were scuff marks on the ball. The problem was, as the independent arbiter, I was constrained to act within certain guidelines, needing basically an accusation and following the principles of natural justice to allow the accused to have a say. And in the circumstances, the umpires at that game were not prepared to push the matter through to any formal conclusion. And hence, the matter rests in a vacuum, so to speak.
In that instance, the Pakistanis weren't given natural justice, in your view?
Well, in the circumstances, they were, because they were never accused of anything, except by innuendo.
Let me go to Sir Geoffrey. Geoffrey Boycott, one of the finest openers in the world.
Ask me
And
something
we have
simple.
a world-class team here, I think, a portion of it. So Geoffrey, tell me, why is these accusations come out in the press? The officials are always very quiet about it. Nobody accuses anybody of anything. It's all innuendo. And this is this huge gray area. Why is that?
I think there's a fear of libel or slander, either way. I think that's the greatest fear by people not naming everybody, so they're actually doing it by innuendo. And whenever you get criticism by innuendo, you're damned by it, you can't answer back. You know, it's only when you're accused properly, then you can give a proper answer, and that's the biggest problem. And the English press at that time, and certainly were looking for opportunities to get at Pakistanis, and Imran calls it Paki bashing, and that stems through a number of incidents that have happened over a period of time with Pakistan and English cricket. Nobody made much of Derek Pringle's statements in the Telegraph at the end of his career last year when he retired and said he'd done all these things to the ball. No big deal because A, he's white, he's Essex, he's not that good.
It does seem whatever Pringle does to the ball, nothing much will happen. but I want you to keep going, Sir Geoffrey. So are you agreeing with Imran, and in a sense, there are others too, who believe that there is a sense of discrimination against the Pakistanis, unfairly so?
I felt so at the time. I mean, certain points that Imran makes, I agree with. One of the points you make is fundamentally correct. The laws are written as such that anybody who picks the seam in any shape or form, whether it's spinners who I've seen just lifting it a touch to get a better grip, seam bowlers going right round the seam with the thumbnail to raise the seam up, using lipsil to make it swing, using sun cream mixed in with their sweat, doing that, and it looks all inoffensive, but it's still, you know, it's still not right.
Are you sympathetic to Imran, even though he has admitted breaking the law?
Yes, I'm sympathetic to it because I've seen it done by a lot of players. I've been in teams myself, and don't ask me to name players because I'm not going to,
okay,
so you're wasting your time.
No.
And I understand Imran's reason why, because it's a very emotive subject. Somebody's going to say that Imran called him a cheat, or I called him a cheat.
Yes.
And you can know that we've got libel, we've got slander, we're going to be in courts of law and everything. But I can put my hand on my heart. I've seen players in my own teams I've played with, and it became an acceptable practice. Wrong, they all knew it was wrong, else they wouldn't have been doing it, you know, secretively.
Yeah.
But they do it like we all do when we drive our cars. We go 75, 80 mile an hour. If we can get away with it a bit quicker, 90, and then one day the policeman catches us, and you're done, aren't you?
Let me go to the only American who has ever written a book on cricket, Marcus. What is your response to the attitude of the newspapers to the Pakistanis and the general feeling that Pakistanis are not to be relied upon? What's your view about that?
My view of that is that it is racist and nationalist, and that this is one of those times when CLR James' motto, "What do they know of cricket who only cricket know," is very appropriate. You have to look at this in a larger context. The papers, as Geoffrey Boycott has said, were out to get the Pakistanis in the summer of 1992. Anyone who goes back and looks at the papers from that period can't be in any doubt of that. And the history of bad feeling between English and Pakistan cricket goes back many years. The ball tampering only emerges in that context, and you can only understand it in that context.
Where's Jonathan Barnett? He is the manager of Waka and Wasim. How do you respond to the revelations and the furor that has been caused?
I don't put it down to Imran. He's got a point of view. We may not necessarily have wished he brought it out. But now that it's out, I mean, what we can say is that Wasim and Waka have never been accused by anybody actually for cheating.
How do they feel about that?
They're very hurt. They're very upset. And they're entitled to be. Innuendo
Upset with whom?
with the press.
Are they upset with Imran?
No. They're not upset with him at all.
For saying it at all?
No. Why should they be?
Okay. Sadiq Mohammed, former Pakistani player, what is your response to the fact that Imran has said these things and all of these problems have been thrown up into the air?
First of all, I would say that he is man enough to make a decision and admit that, you know, he's admitted that the ball tampering has been going on and he's done it himself. What I'm saying that is did not visualize the effect or the damage it will create to the country and to the Pakistan cricket. That is where I think he did not do his homework properly, that Pakistan cricketers have been told by the media, been casted as cheat. Now, by his statement, that has proved that the Pakistani bowlers were doing it.
Yeah, I want to answer that.
Okay, yeah, hold on. Let me go to some young players, and
Well,
we'll
let
take.
me answer
no,
that.
I'll bring you in a minute, Imran. Tajbak, yes. What has it affected you in any way?
Well, my main concern is that, obviously, as Bash said earlier, that Imran's been a fantastic role model to young people. But I've actually seen personally myself, boys, 12, 13, 14-year-olds, actually getting hold of a ball and scratching it. And that worries me. Because obviously people like Imran, they have a responsibility to these young people. And when they do make these comments, and obviously there's been a lot in the press as well, the young people are naturally going to try to copy their idols.
You must take these comments seriously.
Well, let me answer it first. I mean, that is one comment also why I regret having disclosed the bottle top thing. But here again, I did not think that the press would have exploited it against Pakistanis. I mean, Derek Pringle did it. Is Essex team a cheat? Is England cheats? I mean, you know, he said the same thing. Was that exploited? No, but
you
I want
back
to.
everybody did it, Imran. You're back
no,
to that.
hold on. I want to just answer this question. Now, when I made these statements, Pakistan were being called cheats, all sorts of names in the press already. Now, how do you take this? Do you take this lying down and accepting it? Do you accept that, you know, someone is calling you cheats and you think, he's gone quiet, now I should, you know, not stir up anything?
Okay, this is the final question before we close the show. If you had the opportunity to go back in time with the knowledge of the consequences of what you have said, would you say that again?
I would not have mentioned the bottle top incident, but I certainly would have said it about lifting the seam and scratching the ball as accepted practices, widespread, and unless and until you now redefine it, like in baseball, similar sort of when there were ball tampering accusations, there were laws were made all the time to redefine them.
We'll close. Thank you very much, Imran, for coming and for your wonderful contribution. Imran Khan. Have Imran's admissions seriously diminished his standing as one of the world's greatest cricketers? Let's look at the evidence. Against Imran Khan, there are those who seem to imply that his transgressions may go further than he would have us believe. And some of his compatriots have expressed disappointment at the recklessness of his admission. And speaking for Imran Khan, others maintain that he has done no more wrong than many other cricketers. They say the Pakistani team has again fallen victim to age-old prejudices. Imran Khan, you have defended your case eloquently. I have grave reservations about the wisdom of your admission, and your countrymen have clearly suffered as a result. Nevertheless, the degree of criticism you have received seems to me to be more concerned with off-the-pitch politics as opposed to what's on the pitch and the proceedings of the game itself. You remain, in my view, one of the finest all-rounders in cricketing history. Thank you very much for coming. Thank you all, and good night.